is a weak analogy fallacy, you may ask? Well, it's actually very much like it sounds like. A weak analogy fallacy is when you clump two things together and use that to make generalizations about one or both of those aspects. This logical fallacy can be easily taught by looking at how they are generally structured. Weak analogies compare two factors. The first factor would have characteristics x, y, and z. The other factor would have similar characteristics x and y. So one using the weak analogy fallacy would conclude that they must share the z characteristic as well. Let's look at an example of this to better understand.
Becky, look over there. It's Nicole.
Gross! You know, she is just like Ashley. They're both rude and annoying.
Oh my god, Becky. Look at her blouse.
Ashley must have that blouse too. As you can see from the last skit, a weak analogy fallacy was used. Just because Ashley and Nicole shared the same characteristics of being rude and annoying, points x and y, we assumed that she must also share characteristic z, or that she must have that blouse. Though this type of logical fallacy is used very often, it is important to try not to do so, to allow your arguments to remain valid and to keep the discussion at hand moving forward instead of just looping back around to your original stance. To use it to your advantage would be worse than to use it by accident, as it would intentionally hinder the progression of the discussion. This logical fallacy, when used, is only really beneficial to the one who is using it, while it confuses those around him or herself. This is how a weak analogy fallacy can go pretty wrong. I'm blonde.
And I'm blonde too.
Which is characteristic X. I'm in Mrs. Blair's AP Lang class.
So am I.
Characteristic Y. So, my name is Katie, so using the weak analogy fallacy, this is characteristic Z, and I would assume that her name must be Katie too, just because we share characteristics X and Y.
My name's not really Katie.
Weak analogy fallacies are oftentimes used in political campaigns to move the audience to feel a certain way. Take this example. When Obama was running for president, it was brought to the attention that X, Obama's birth certificate, had not been seen by the public, even though they're not usually released, and Y, that he was African American, so he must have been born in Africa. And then many concluded that Z, he is not an American citizen. Both points X and Y could be those of an individual who is not a legal citizen. So many concluded, though offensive, that Obama was not born in America. Thanks to logical fallacies for all this great information that we used to learn and give our own presentation.